Hello, Namaskar. This is Firstpost and you're watching Vantage with me, Palki Sharma. A high-level US team is in India. Are we finally close to a trade deal? What is taking so long? Are other US trade deals unraveling? And what happens if US courts scrap Donald Trump's tariffs? We'll discuss all of it tonight with the updates. In East Asia, another conflict is building up. Russian and Chinese bombers flew dangerously close to Japan. Tokyo responded. We'll bring you the full story. Also, why Washington is looking towards Balochistan and its untapped critical minerals. How big tech is betting big on India. Microsoft, Amazon, Google, they're all in the game. How Australia has done what no country has attempted, a nationwide ban on social media for children. Back home, the indigo crisis exposes a much bigger problem, India's pilot shortage. And a massive financial push. Indians have more than $11 billion in unclaimed assets. The government is urging them to take their money. In Ukraine, an election in the middle of a war. What is Zelensky's new strategy? Plus a warning for all. This may be the winter of the century with a punishing cold spell. And a new health scare in India. Are eggs causing cancer? We break down the facts for you. But first, as always, the headlines. The daughter of Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Corina Machado accepts the 2025 Nobel Peace Prize on her behalf at a ceremony in Oslo. Machado condemned the Nicolas Maduro government in a speech read by her daughter. She also promised to return to Venezuela soon. Machado has been in hiding since Maduro's disputed election win last year. Prime Minister Narendra Modi receives a call from his Israeli counterpart Benjamin Netanyahu. Both leaders discussed ways to strengthen bilateral ties and reiterated their zero-tolerance approach towards terrorism. Prime Minister Modi also reaffirmed India's support for efforts to ensure peace in West Asia. Burundi closes its border with the Democratic Republic of Congo after Rwandan-backed M23 rebels enter a city in eastern DRC. Rwanda has accused DR Congo and Burundi of violating a recently signed peace agreement, while the US and Europe have urged Kigali to withdraw its troops from the mineral-rich region. Greece's government holds emergency meetings as protests by farmers escalate. The demonstrators temporarily blocked a central port. On Monday, farmers had blocked Crete's two main airports. The unrest is over a farm subsidy scandal, which has delayed payments to the farmers. And UNESCO adds Diwali, the Festival of Lights, to its intangible cultural heritage list. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has welcomed this announcement. He said the festival is closely linked to India's culture and ethos. Diwali is the 16th Indian tradition to make it to the coveted list, which includes Durga Puja and the Kumbh Mela. At this point, the world is waiting for two things. One is GTA 6, the other is a US-India trade deal. It's been a long and winding journey so far. 10 months, 6 rounds of talks, many ups and downs, and still no breakthrough. Today, a US delegation arrived in India for more talks. It is being led by two key people, Rick Switzer, the Deputy Trade Representative, and Brendan Lynch, the Chief Negotiator. Both of them will lead this round of talks. And who are they talking to? Two key people from India, Rajesh Agrawal, who's the Commerce Secretary, and Darpan Jain, the Chief Negotiator. It's up to them to thrash out this crucial agreement. Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal sounded hopeful today. At the same time, he made one thing clear. He said there is no deadline to strike a deal. You negotiate until both sides are happy.
I've said many times that all agreements, all discussions have many diverse, many different angles, many dots have to be connected, and we never negotiate deals with deadlines.
Well, that was not always the plan. Let me take you back to February 2025. That's when Prime Minister Narendra Modi met US President Donald Trump. Their joint statement did set a deadline. They wanted a preliminary deal by fall 2025. That's between September and November. So why the delay? Well, you can blame Donald Trump for that. He has added new sticking points to the negotiations, things like Russian oil and Indian rice exports. As a result, the talks are moving slowly. So far, India has made multiple moves to show goodwill. First is on the surplus front. India ran a $45 billion surplus with the US, meaning we exported more than we imported, and the difference was $45 billion. Donald Trump wanted to cut that surplus down, and India obliged. Our trade surplus in the month of April was $3.17 billion. By the month of October, it had come down to $1.45 billion. Secondly, India has diversified its energy purchases. Look at the period from April to October. The US made up more than 7% of India's energy imports. Last year, it was less than 4%. So we are buying more energy from America. India has put its best foot forward. And the US knows this. Trump's top trade official was questioned by the US Congress yesterday, and he says India has been forward-leaning, that New Delhi's offers have been some of the best ever.
I have a team over there right now as we speak in New Delhi working on this. There's resistance in India to certain row crops and other meats and products. They're, like you said, they're very difficult nut to crack. I agree with that 100%. But they've been quite forward-leaning. The type of offers they've been talking to us about have been the best we've ever received as a country.
And the reason is quite simple. It's not because the tariffs are draining India's economy. In fact, the GDP grew by more than 8% in the last quarter. The problem is investor sentiment. Most major economies have struck a deal with Donald Trump. This includes some of India's competitors. Countries like Thailand, Vietnam, South Korea, they all have a deal. So the lack of a deal in India is putting investors off. Again, look at the data. Foreign investors have pulled out $1.3 billion from Indian stocks, $1.3 billion, and that's only in the first week of December. Hence this push for a US trade deal. But during these talks, India should keep two things in mind. One, how are Trump's other deals going, other trade deals that he sealed? Reports say the deal with Indonesia is at the risk of collapsing because American officials say that Indonesia is backtracking, that they're not removing the barriers to US exports. And this is not a one-off. Look at the South Korea deal. Trump wants Seoul to pay $350 billion as upfront cash. This is highly unusual. Investment promises are not paid upfront. They materialize over years. And they definitely are not paid in cash. Right now, that's a big issue between Washington and Seoul. Now look at the European deal. It requires the EU to invest $600 billion in the US, and that's a non-starter. Brussels already says that it cannot guarantee this investment. And frankly, this is not surprising. You see, all these deals were handshake agreements. They were not ratified by Parliament. They're not even legally bounding. Either side could walk out of it tomorrow. That's the first thing that India should keep in mind. Secondly, these tariffs could be illegal. Trump's tariffs, they could be illegal. Because Trump may not have the power to impose them in the first place. That's something that the courts will decide. This case is already in the US Supreme Court, and Trump is quite worried about it. He went on a social media rant yesterday. Listen to what he said. The biggest threat in history to United States national security would be a negative decision on tariffs by the US Supreme Court. We would be financially defenseless. Talk about exaggeration. He's calling it the biggest threat to US national security. But rhetoric aside, the threat is real. There's a good chance that the court will strike down Trump's tariffs. What happens to the deal then? Are you back to the drawing board? The fact is, no one knows, not the Indian negotiators, not the American negotiators, which is why a slow negotiation may not be such a bad idea. Slow, not endless. In East Asia, tensions remain high. Chinese jets are circling the region. Russian aircraft are right behind them, and Japan is on target. It was forced to scramble its planes again. Take a look at this first. Let's tell you what's going on. Today, Tokyo sounded the alarm once again. China and Russia launched a joint patrol operation. Their planes were flying close to Japan's airspace. Russia deployed the Tu-95 strategic bomber. These planes are capable of carrying nuclear weapons. They flew from the Sea of Japan into the East China Sea. There, they were joined by two Chinese warplanes, the H-6 bombers. These planes flew a long-distance joint mission. They were flying over international waters, so technically, the patrol did not break any law. But this is classic muscle flexing. They were sending a message to Japan, and in response, Tokyo scrambled its jets. These Japanese planes followed the Chinese and Russian ones. They monitored and tracked them, and their orders were quite simple: defend Japan's airspace and deter escalation. That's what they were meant to do. The entire operation lasted 8 hours. Later, Japan's defense minister issued a statement. He criticized the China-Russia joint operation, and he did not mince his words.
The repeated joint bomber flights by both countries signify an expansion and intensification of activities around our nation, and we cannot but view them as a show of force against Japan. We consider this a matter of grave concern for our national security.
Tokyo has termed it a show of force and a serious concern for Japan's national security. They have good reasons to be vigilant. Because look at what happened with South Korea yesterday. They confronted a total of 9 aircraft. 7 were Russian, 2 were Chinese. These 9 planes entered South Korea's air defense zone, and they did so without any warning or communication. And today the same thing happened with Japan. This is not coincidence, this is coordination. This is a response to Japan's aggressive posture on Taiwan. And Tokyo is not backing down, it is embarking on a massive military buildup. Its biggest in at least 4 decades. Japan is building a wall to defend itself, not on land but across the sea. From Japan's southern tip all the way down to Taiwan. Observers are calling it a missile archipelago. There are small islands in the region. Japan is equipping them with massive firepower. We are talking about missiles, radar towers, ammunition depots, combat bases, and of course troops. They'll have all of it. The front line is an island called Yonaguni. It is just 110 kilometers away from Taiwan. Japan has built a military base there. There's another island called Kyushu. Tokyo wants to deploy military assets there, like F-35 fighter jets and long-range missiles. And while these plans are old, the urgency to execute them is new. The build-up is now gathering pace, and it's meant to do one thing: deter China. In response, Beijing is intensifying its own pressure campaign.
Anyone with clear eyes can see that Japan is deliberately spreading and hyping false information in the military and security field at this time and stirring up tensions with ulterior motives. We strongly urge Japan to immediately stop dangerous actions that disturb China's normal training activities and stop all irresponsible false hype and political manipulation.
The situation escalated last month when Japan said it would defend Taiwan if China attacked. If China attacks Taiwan, Japan would defend it. That's what Japan's Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi said. She made that statement in Parliament. Beijing was quick to react. It banned Japanese seafood. It blocked travel. It told Chinese airlines to cancel flights to Japan. China even protested at the United Nations, and it appears that they even nudged the US to step in. Xi Jinping called Donald Trump last month. Soon after they spoke, Trump called Takaichi, and he had one message for her: lower the volume on Taiwan. But that's not happening. The situation is only escalating. Over the weekend, China targeted Japanese warplanes. Chinese pilots radar-locked Japanese planes. And this is not a routine move. This is the first step towards combat. It means that the pilot's finger is one trigger away from firing a missile. China has denied it, of course, but Japan stands firm by its version. And now, for the first time, the United States has issued a statement. Washington has criticized China's action publicly. This is a big shift in Trump's approach to this face-off. But of course, Beijing has not dialed down, and that is the real risk here. These skies are packed with jets, they're armed, and they're testing the limits. They're getting too close too often. That's what makes this current situation so dangerous. One misstep and a conflict could break out. We do hope it doesn't come to that. Balochistan is one of those places that the world only speaks of in adjectives. Untamed, vast, rich, strategic, yet somehow also forgotten. It is Pakistan's largest province, but also its most sparsely populated. Balochistan makes up 40% of Pakistan's landmass, but it barely registers in Islamabad's priorities. For more than 70 years, this region has lived under a strange curse. It holds the kind of mineral wealth that attracts countries, but it has no power to decide its own fate. And why are we talking about it tonight? Because there's a new treasure hunter at Balochistan's doorstep, the United States of America.
I'm pleased to highlight the U.S. Export-Import Bank recently approved financing of $1.25 billion to support the mining of critical minerals at Reko in Pakistan. In the coming years, EXIM's project financing will bring in up to $2 billion in high-quality U.S. mining equipment and services needed to build and operate the Reko mine. The Trump administration has made the forging of deals exactly like this one central to American diplomacy. We look forward to seeing further agreements between U.S. companies and their Pakistani counterparts in the critical minerals and mining sector.
That was the acting U.S. ambassador to Pakistan, Natalie Baker. She markets it like a grand project. The United States will send mining equipment to Balochistan's Reko. Reko is a copper-gold mine in the making. It will be backed by a financing package worth $1.25 billion. This money will come from the U.S. Exim Bank, that is the U.S. Export-Import Bank. And this is supposed to create jobs. Around 6,000 jobs in the US and 7,500 jobs in Balochistan, so 13,500 jobs in total. It is being billed as one of the largest US partnerships in Pakistan's mineral sector. On paper, it sounds like a great plan. It's something that Pakistan has been trying to pitch to Washington. In fact, you may remember this picture. That is Pakistan's real leader, their army chief Asim Munir. He's holding a box of rare earth minerals. He's showing them off to Trump. Of course, the US president looks intrigued. He's been chasing rare earth deals. These minerals are crucial for modern life. They're the building blocks of everything, from your iPhone screen to fighter jets to electric cars, even wind turbines. Rare earths are needed to build all of these things. The problem is China dominates the supply, so the US has been desperately hunting for alternatives. And when Pakistan's Asim Munir walked in with his box of stones, Trump was wooed. But did those stones really come from Pakistan? Do they have the reserves they claim to have, or is this just a ploy to engage Trump? For years, geologists have suspected that Pakistan might be sitting on massive deposits: copper, gold, maybe even rare earth elements. But here's the twist. None of it is proven. The US Geological Survey does not even list Pakistan as a recognized source. So here's what we know. Balochistan definitely has copper and gold. It may even have rare earth minerals, and everyone's eyes are locked on one side, the Reko-Dik. Asim Munir says it could generate $2 billion a year, $2 billion. If hope was a business model, this would be a masterclass. Also, let's assume that Balochistan does have the minerals. But how will you extract them? And I ask because here are some hard truths. One, the land itself. It is rugged and mostly empty. Two, the insurgencies. Attacks by militant groups and protests by the locals have rocked these areas for years. And three, the money that never came. Pakistan has never had the capital to really dig. Ask China. Balochistan is part of the CPEC, the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. China has invested billions of dollars in this region. And what did they get in return? Security nightmares. Chinese assets have been under attack, mostly by Baloch insurgents. Look at the story of Sendak. It's a Chinese-run copper project. It was once sold as the region's economic awakening, but revenue mostly flowed out. Local employment remained limited. Baloch resentment grew, and the attacks increased. Would they target American operations too? We don't know, but let's just say this. Insurgents are not known for making fine geopolitical distinctions. Although right now, none of this may stop the US, because for them, Balochistan is a perfect chessboard square. They can get critical minerals, and they can counter China in the region. So America is promising jobs and prosperity. But unless the model changes, the outcome won't change. Because buried under the copper and gold is something far more valuable and ignored: the right of a people to benefit from their own land. And that is the one resource no one seems in a hurry to mine. That's Pakistan's idea of investment, selling their national wealth for geopolitics. Meanwhile, in India, we're notching up some real investments, that too in the field of AI. We've seen two big announcements in 2 days. The first one came from Microsoft. Microsoft is investing $17.5 billion in India. That's from 2026 to 2029. It's their biggest investment yet in Asia. The announcement came after CEO Satya Nadella met Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Prime Minister Modi said the world was optimistic about AI in India, and this deal is not a one-off. Microsoft had earlier announced investments worth $3 billion. Their plan is to build a hyperscale cloud region, basically a cluster of AI data centers. This is being built in the southern Indian city of Hyderabad. It will go online by the middle of next year. This new investment is also geared towards cloud and AI infrastructure. So simply put, Microsoft is betting big on India. Then you have Amazon. Today, they announced $35 billion in investments. That is from now to 2030. This money will go into 3 avenues. 1 is AI-driven digitization, 2, boosting exports, and 3, creating new jobs. Like Microsoft, Amazon is doubling down. They've already invested $40 billion in India. This new announcement makes them the biggest foreign investor in the country, almost $75 billion combined. Amazon already has data centers in Telangana and Maharashtra. Their plan is to expand these facilities. And the list does not end here. In the month of October, Google announced $15 billion in investments. They're building a massive AI hub in Visakhapatnam. Then you have Intel. They've signed up with Tata's semiconductor arm. The Tata Group is investing $14 billion in the chip sector. They're setting up India's first fabrication facility in Gujarat. They're also building an assembly line in Assam. What they needed was customers, people who would buy chips made in these facilities. And that is where Intel comes in. Yesterday, Intel's CEO met Prime Minister Narendra Modi. He promised to support India's semiconductor mission. I know these numbers sound amazing. $35 billion by Amazon, $17 billion by Microsoft. But what is driving this AI buzz in India, and how will it help the country? Well, three factors are driving the buzz. First is India's massive and diverse consumer base. We have 1 billion phone users, 1 billion. They speak different languages, they follow different cultures. It's the ultimate test for any AI model. If you can survive in India, you can go global. Secondly, there is a government push. India has unveiled a semiconductor mission. It has a total of $8 billion in funding. Plus, the government is integrating AI into public services, meaning India's AI adoption is likely to increase. We are not a hostile environment for AI. We are quite the opposite. And finally, there is a geopolitical angle. US tech firms are wary of investing in China. They see India as a safer bet, a free society and a democracy, abundant supply of English-speaking engineers, and a huge market to capitalize on. But how do these investments help Indians? For starters, jobs. Consider the Microsoft investment. They're promising to upskill 20 million Indians by 2030. Basically, equip them with AI skills, 20 million people. Same with Amazon. They have supported 2.8 million jobs, both direct and indirect. So that's a key advantage for us. Also, these projects give us leverage. Consider the issue of data sovereignty. The idea that the data of Indians should be stored in India, not in California or in Texas. It should be in India. Microsoft is offering this to India. They're giving sovereign cloud services to Indian customers. So this AI buzz is not just about jobs or money. It is about becoming part of the AI supply chain. If you are not part of this chain, you have no say. You must do what big tech says. But if you enter the supply chain, you have more leverage. Let's see what India does with this influence. Australia is making headlines for making the boldest move in the digital world, banning social media for children. Australia is the first and only country in the world to do this. The ban came into effect today. So if you're under 16 years of age in Australia, no Facebook, no Instagram, no TikTok, YouTube or Snapchat for you. Teenagers are being locked out of their accounts. The government says this is about safety. Social media giants have raised concerns, but they have no choice but to comply with the law. Meanwhile, teenagers are mourning the loss of their accounts. Some spent last night posting countdown videos, others shared their phone numbers publicly to stay in touch with their friends, and some say they will simply find ways around the ban. So can a law really keep teenagers off social media? Should other countries try to do the same? Our next report explores.
From December 10, if you're under 16, you're no longer allowed to have a social media account.
Australia has just drawn a hard line. As of Wednesday, social media is officially off limits for anyone under 16. Australia has become the first country to do so, and within hours of the ban taking effect, it began locking out hundreds of thousands of teenage accounts. 10 major platforms are now enforcing the ban. This includes Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, X, YouTube, Snapchat, Reddit, among others. All must remove under 16 accounts and block new ones. If they do not, they face fines of up to $33 million. But the ban is not absolute. Apps like Discord, Pinterest, LinkedIn, and WhatsApp, among others, have been excluded. But regulators say the list is dynamic. If teenagers flee to a new app, that app can be added later. The government says the aim is safety. A study found 96% of 10 to 15-year-olds were on social media. 7 in 10 had seen harmful content. More than half had faced cyberbullying, and 1 in 7 reported grooming-type behavior from adults or older teens. To enforce the ban, companies must verify age. They cannot rely on self-declared birthdays. They must use multiple tools including selfie-based age estimation, government ID uploads, bank card checks, and AI systems that infer a user's age from how they behave online. If someone is over 16 but wrongly flagged, they can appeal. the ban has triggered a coordinated pushback from the major platforms. Most have complied, but they have still raised concerns. Meta says the ban is already driving teenagers to less regulated apps like Lemon 8 and Yope. Reddit says the ban undermines privacy and free expression. Meanwhile, the teenagers are also reacting in very different ways. In the hours before the ban took effect, some teens posted countdown videos and goodbye notes online. Others shared their phone numbers publicly so they would not lose touch with their friends. Many wrote, "See you when I'm 16.
It's just kind of like pointless. Like, it's just like, we're just going to create like new ways to get on these platforms. So, like, what's the point, you know?
I think if you can get a job at 14, if you can take care of someone's kid, like do babysitting and stuff, I think you should be able to like be able to have social media and have the government like trust you on it.
But some have welcomed the change. They say it might finally reduce their screen time. As the policy takes effect, there are still questions about how well it will work. Australia's regulator says day one will not be perfect. Age assurance tools can misclassify teenagers. Underage users may slip through the cracks, and many may move to unregulated corners of the internet. Yet governments around the world are watching. Denmark is planning its own under-15 ban. Norway and Malaysia are studying Australia's approach. The European Union has endorsed stricter age controls, and several US states have also attempted similar bans, though many are tied up in court. For now, Australia is the global test case. The next few months will show whether this bold step delivers the safety it promises.
It is day 9 of the Indigo crisis. There were fewer cancellations today, but India's largest airline is still not back to its full operations. Passengers are still stranded at some airports. The courts have stepped in, and the government has begun cutting Indigo's flights. In the last 9 days, more than 4,600 Indigo flights have been cancelled. At its peak, more than 1,600 flights were being cancelled in a single day. Today, that number is down to 220 cancellations. So the worst may be over, but the disruption has not ended fully. At big airports like Delhi and Bengaluru, passengers are still facing last-minute changes. Meanwhile, the Delhi High Court has entered the picture. It has put the government in the dock. The court has asked, why was the government's response delayed? Why was the crisis allowed to build up? And how were other airlines allowed to hike fares? The government has responded to these questions. It has said that the crisis escalated because Indigo was not following the rules. It has been issued a show-cause notice. The DGCA has summoned Indigo's CEO tomorrow. The DGCA is the Director General of Civil Aviation. That's India's aviation regulator. It has sought a full explanation for the disruptions. It has sought detailed data on flight restoration and on how the passengers are being accommodated. The regulator has also widened its checks. It has formed a team to monitor Indigo's operations. The DGCA has also ordered fresh inspections at least 11 airports. Yesterday, there was a surprise check at the Mumbai airport.
I came here to do a surprise check as per the instruction of Honorable Minister of Civil Aviation and Secretary Civil Aviation. Yesterday night, we decided to check all the airport, a surprise check, how the passengers are get affected, anything, how the things are moving forward. I came here to check the Mumbai, and things are in control. We discussed with all the stakeholders, especially with the airport operators, ATC control managers, and the other operators, and things are going good.
So the authorities have swung into action. It may fix the current mess, but it may not address the larger issue. How did one airline derail the entire system? Because the gaps are systemic. It's a duopoly with infrastructure under pressure and a tough operating environment for key players. Tonight, we want to highlight one more issue, and that is India's pilot problem. We do not have enough pilots. Look at the official data. 6 major airlines in India employ almost 14,000 pilots. But these numbers can be misleading because employment is not the same as active flying. In practice, there are only about 8,000 active commercial pilots. 8,000 for a fleet of 834 aircraft, and this fleet is expanding, by the way. Indian Airlines have ordered 1,700 new planes. To fly these planes, India will need at least 25,000 to 30,000 pilots. That's what the aviation minister has said. We need 30,000 pilots. We have 8,000. That is a massive gap. So why don't we have more pilots? We are a country of 1.4 billion people. Why do we have just 8,000 active commercial pilots? Because of a series of bottlenecks. The first challenge is the cost. Becoming a pilot in India is an expensive pursuit. You need anywhere between 70 and 90 lakh rupees. This high cost restricts many entrants, and the pipeline of pilots remains small. The second challenge is poaching. International airlines actively target Indian pilots. They are offered higher salaries, better rosters, quick promotions, so experienced pilots join them. In fact, India raised this matter at the United Nations. It said poaching is hurting India's aviation expansion. The third challenge is the regulator itself, the DGCA. It is understaffed. Nearly half of its technical posts are vacant. This slows down pilot exams, license renewals, simulator checks, and promotions for existing pilots. Now, when you put all of this together, the fault lines become clear. When a large airline hits turbulence, there aren't enough spare pilots, there isn't enough regulatory bandwidth, and certainly not enough system capacity to absorb the shock. The government says it is taking steps. More training seats, faster licensing, and a new framework for pilot approvals. They're working on all of this. But these are long-term fixes. They will not solve tomorrow's delays or next week's cancellations. And this, unfortunately, is the story of the world's fastest growing aviation market. The runways are ready, the planes are ready, the passengers are definitely ready, but the system still does not have enough pilots to take India where it wants to go. Imagine discovering a lottery ticket that you don't even remember buying and finding out that it's a winner. Or opening an old drawer and realizing that you had a bank account with real money still in it. That is exactly what is happening to people across India right now. Old savings, lapsed insurance payouts, forgotten dividends, and dormant deposits. Money that has been lying around for years. It is finally coming to light. And there's a lot of it, a lot of this money, over 1 lakh crore rupees. That's around $11 billion. $11 billion of unclaimed money. To tackle this, the government has launched a nationwide campaign. It is called Your Money, Your Right. Online portals have been set up. Camps are being organized to guide people through their lost accounts and forgotten investments. Prime Minister Modi has urged citizens to check if they ever put money away and simply lost track of it. Because this is not a subsidy or a government gift. This is your money waiting to be claimed. Here's how you can get it back.
There's money lying idle. Lots of it. And most of it belongs to ordinary Indians. Not billionaires, not businesses, but people like you. And now the government wants you to claim it. They've launched a nationwide drive. It's called Your Money, Your Right. The idea is this. Over the years, banks, insurance companies, and mutual funds have piled up unclaimed money. Accounts no one touched, policies never encashed, and investments left behind. And all of it, legally, belongs to someone. So how much money are we talking about? Here's the breakdown. Over $7 billion is lying unclaimed in banks, more than $1 billion with insurance companies, another billion in unpaid dividends, roughly $340 million in mutual funds. That's around $11 billion left unclaimed. This isn't some scam or loophole. This is real money. People's savings, family investments, hard-earned cash. Often lost due to a death, an old account, or plain oversight. Since October, about $220 million have been returned through this new initiative. It started quietly. Now it's going national. So what's actually being done? Several online portals are now live. Each tracks a different type of asset. Unclaimed money in your bank account? Check the official website set up by the Reserve Bank of India. forgot to collect an insurance payout? You can search for it through the Insurance Regulatory Authority's portal. Invested in a mutual fund and lost track? The Securities and Exchange Board of India has a site for that. Never received your company dividends or shares? Try the Ministry of Corporate Affairs website. Each one handles a different type of asset. All are official, all are live, and all are free to use. Just go online, search your name, and see if your money is waiting. But there's a catch. You need to know where to look. You need some documentation, and you need to claim it yourself. It's not automatic. To help with that, facilitation camps are being set up in 477 districts. This is across both urban and rural regions of the country. The goal is to make it easier to check and claim, especially in remote areas. So far, it's a decent start, but the scale is massive and challenges remain. Many people still don't know that these portals exist. Some aren't comfortable with tech, others don't even realize they're eligible. PM Modi posted about this initiative on social media today. He urged citizens to take part. He called it an opportunity to recover what's rightfully theirs. It's a strong message, but the follow-through matters more. Because this isn't just a campaign, it's a cleanup. A reality check on how India handles unclaimed wealth. So there's money on the table, and for once the system wants to give it back. But don't wait for a call. You'll have to go get it.
Will Ukraine hold elections in the middle of a war? I know it sounds impossible, but President Zelensky says he is ready. On one condition, though, the US and its allies will have to provide security. But where did this idea come from? Such brainwaves seem to be happening in just one place, and that is Washington, D.C. President Donald Trump has questioned Zelensky's legitimacy as the Ukrainian president. His term was supposed to end in May 2024, but because of the war, there is martial law in Ukraine, and during martial law, elections are suspended. Now, Trump says he doesn't like that. Yesterday, he questioned whether Ukraine was still a democracy.
They haven't had an election in a long time. You know, they talk about a democracy, but it gets to a point where it's not a democracy anymore.
Well, that was the trigger. After Trump's comments, Zelensky spoke out. He said he was willing to hold elections in 60 to 90 days. But like I said, there was one condition.
Look, I am ready for elections. Moreover, I am now asking, and I am stating this openly, for the United States, possibly together with our European colleagues, to help me ensure security for holding elections. And then, within the next 60 to 90 days, Ukraine will be ready to hold them. Personally, I have the will and readiness to do so.
So how would that work? For starters, Ukraine will have to change its law, basically allow elections during martial law period. And that's the easy part. Around 20% of Ukraine's territory is held by Russia. How will those people vote? Around 1.5 million Ukrainians are living abroad as refugees. How will they vote? Tens of thousands of soldiers are in the trenches. How will they vote? Will they pause the war to carry out the elections? The fact is, this idea is ludicrous. Zelensky is not some unpopular dictator fighting an unpopular war. Polls show that 63% Ukrainians want an election after a peace deal. And whether you like him or not, Zelensky remains Ukraine's most popular politician. Multiple polls have already confirmed this. Then why is President Trump insisting on elections? For starters, to build pressure. Trump desperately wants to end the war in Ukraine. He knows that he cannot arm twist Russia, so he wants to arm twist Ukraine.
Is Zelensky responsible for the stalled progress, or what's going on there?
Well, he's got to read the proposal. He hasn't read it
the most
yet.
recent draft.
That's
yeah.
as of yesterday. And maybe he's read it over the night. It would be nice if he would read it. You know, a lot of people are dying, so it would be really good if he'd read it. His people loved the proposal. They really liked it. Well, he's going to have to get on the ball and start accepting things. You know, when you're losing, because you're losing.
Do you think Ukraine has lost this war?
Well, they've lost territory long before I got here. They lost a whole strip of seafront.
Trump's position is very clear. He knows that Ukraine is losing, so he wants Zelensky to take a peace deal. But there's one major sticking point there, and that is territory. Russia wants Ukraine to give up all of Donbass. This is a region in eastern Ukraine. This is where most of the fighting is happening, in the Donbass. Russia already controls 88% of Donbass. They want Ukraine to surrender the remaining 12% as well. Give up all of it. But Zelensky refuses to do that. He says Ukrainian and international law does not permit him to give up land. Strange argument though. Ukrainian law also does not permit elections during war, but Zelensky doesn't seem to mind that. Either way, the fact is that we are stuck in a loop. Trump ramps up pressure on Zelensky. He gives him a harsh peace deal. Zelensky turns to his European allies. With their support, he makes a counter-offer. Russia rejects that offer. Again, Trump ramps up the pressure. And it's been the same script since Trump took office. We saw it again this week. Zelensky first met the leaders of Germany, France, and the UK. Then he traveled to Italy and Brussels. And now he's preparing a new peace plan for Russia. A plan that Moscow is guaranteed to reject. So clearly, something needs to change here. Maybe Trump should call up his allies in Europe. Maybe he should tell them to support his peace proposal. That's what a seasoned leader would do. Instead, here is what Donald Trump did.
They're not doing a good job. Europe is not doing a good job in many ways. They're not doing a good job. They talk, but they don't produce. But most European nations, they're decaying. They're decaying. They should be freaked out by what they're doing to their countries. They're destroying their countries.
Well, European Council President.
And they're people I like.
Trump just said Europe is decaying. We're talking about his most important allies, the countries that fought with America in multiple wars. But Trump says they are decaying. Now, there is some truth to what he said. Europe used to make up 25% of global GDP in 1990. Today, they make up just 14%. So yes, Europe's power is waning. But by that logic, so is America's. The problem is not the reality check here. The problem is the motive. Trump says Europe is decaying because of migrants, because it's too woke. But Europe's real problems lie elsewhere, in the aging population, in their dependence on US security, and in their delusions of old grandeur. If Trump wants an amicable peace deal, he needs Europe on board. His other option is to just abandon Ukraine, let the war play out on the battlefield, but that would be a bloody and devastating result. This moment calls for mature and level-headed diplomacy, not insults and name-calling. Our next story is about a shift in the Arctic. It's a shift that could change winter for millions this year. Scientists say something unusual is happening over the Arctic. The air circulation there has weakened. What does that mean? This circulation usually keeps the coldest air locked near the North Pole. But this year, it is not strong enough. So more of that cold air is moving south. And that is why many regions are bracing for a sharper winter this year. North America is already seeing early effects. Europe is also bracing for a drop in temperatures. Even India is preparing for more colder days ahead. So what caused this shift in the first place? What does this mean for different regions? And could this indeed turn into a winter of the century? Here's a report.
This year, winter has arrived with signals that something is different. These are signals from the atmosphere, and from the scientists who say this season may be more dramatic than usual. Across the Northern Hemisphere, a major shift is unfolding. It is a shift that begins high above the North Pole, and that is now influencing weather across Europe, North America, and parts of Asia. The polar vortex is at the center of this story. It is a large ring of strong winds that circles the Arctic. It normally traps the coldest air over the pole. But this winter, reports say it is weaker than usual. In some regions, it is even split. This weakening is linked to a sudden warming above us. High above the weather we experience each day sits a calm layer called the stratosphere. It contains the ozone layer, and it is the home of the polar vortex. Right now, the stratosphere above the Arctic is warming rapidly. This happens when unusual atmospheric waves push upward from below and disrupt the vortex. Scientists call this a sudden stratospheric warming event. The warming slows the vortex winds. It can even reverse them. Once that happens, Arctic air can escape south into Europe, North America, and Asia. This is already visible in North America. Part of the weakened vortex has shifted over Alaska and Arctic Canada. It is pushing frigid Arctic air into the United States. Some experts call this the Polar Express pattern. It is a pattern where Arctic air travels in a straight path from northwest to southeast. It happens when high pressure blocks the west and a deep trough opens in the east. This creates a corridor that allows cold air to flow south. Across Canada and the United States, temperatures are expected to fall well below normal. Experts say some regions may drop far below freezing levels. Europe is watching the same warnings. Reports suggest the continent is also feeling the effects of the weaker vortex. Germany may face Arctic outbreaks after Christmas. Experts say the final outcome remains open, but the risk of a colder phase is rising. India is also preparing for a sharper winter. The India Meteorological Department expects more cold wave days in central, northwest, and northeast India. The chill is linked to both the weakened polar vortex and La Niña. La Niña is a cooling pattern in the Pacific Ocean that influences weather worldwide, and it is expected to continue into early 2026. Scientists say the broader picture is clear, but the exact intensity and timing can still shift. A weakened polar vortex can wobble for weeks, and it can take more than a month to recover. So, brace yourselves. This winter may hold some surprises.
What if I told you that the most dangerous thing in your kitchen is not the knife or the gas stove, but the food that you eat? Every day we trust what we put on our plates, but lately that trust is starting to crack. Because look at these headlines. Breads in India contain hazardous chemicals. 97% milk samples found adulterated in one Indian state. And now it seems even eggs are not safe. Here's what has happened. A YouTube channel tested a batch of eggs from Eggo's Nutrition. This is a startup selling the idea of cruelty-free, hygienic, chemical-free eggs. The pitch was to India's new health-obsessed middle class, but the report found something far from healthy. It found two chemicals, nitrofuran and nitroamidazole. Now, both are banned for use in poultry. Both are classified as genotoxic. That means they can mess with your DNA, and if that goes on long enough, it can potentially cause diseases like cancer. Now, here's the caveat. It was a single test conducted on a single batch. Of course, Eggo's Nutrition has denied the claims. They say their eggs are safe, they are antibiotic-free, and that the brand is committed to safety. Only a wider study of eggs in the market can reveal the full picture, the whole picture. But we get why this may have caused a stir, because food adulteration in India is an old and oft-repeated story. It's a long tale with many, many chapters. Take milk, for instance. Best case scenario, your milk is watered down. Worst case, it is mixed with detergent, urea, and cheap fat. Paneer or cottage cheese is stuffed with starch or worse. Spices have artificial textile dyes. They contain lead chromate. These are chemicals used to color clothes. They're now coloring your chili and turmeric. Cereals and pulses, they're coated with talc to make them shine. Many are polished with illegal whitening agents. Rice in some regions carries arsenic. Oils, mustard oil adulteration caused entire epidemics of dropsy. Fruits and vegetables, pesticides are sprayed so heavily that no amount of washing is enough. Some samples exceed global residue limits several times over. Fish often contains formalin. This is added to keep it fresh, but this is the same chemical that is used to preserve dead bodies. And now even eggs may contain banned DNA-damaging compounds. Imagine that. And here's where the story gets even more uncomfortable. Why do these scandals break through independent reports? Why does the FSSAI not spot it? That is the Food Safety and Standards Authority of India. It is India's food regulator. Yet every major food revelation comes from someone outside the government, because the watchdog acts more like a hall monitor than a regulator. Food inspection teams are understaffed, testing labs are limited, penalties for adulteration are laughable, and enforcement is patchy. So where exactly does the Indian consumer go? What do they eat? From 2022 to 2023, about 177,000 samples were analysed. Around 44,600 were non-conforming. That's roughly 25% of the samples tested. And that means 1/4 could have been adulterated. And these are just the tested samples. Thousands remain untested. And honestly, everyone knows the truth. Food adulteration is a reality. Food is expected to be adulterated in India. And that is the tragedy. You buy milk with suspicion, you smell fruits like a detective, and now you look at eggs like they're radioactive. An entire nation has become paranoid because the system has consistently failed them. This needs to change. And we can start with 3 things. First, a regulator that regulates, not reacts. Random sampling must be aggressive, routine, and nationwide, and also public. 2, zero tolerance for banned substances. If it is genotoxic, there is no permissible limit. And 3, real consequences for adulteration, not 50,000 rupee fines, not license suspensions, actual criminal prosecution for endangering lives. India needs something it has not had in a long, long time, a national conversation about what we are eating and what we are allowing. Because at the end of the day, the real crisis is not a chemical in the egg. The crisis is in the confidence. And unless India fixes that, this crisis of trust will only get deeper. Australia just did the impossible. No, they did not beat India in cricket. They banned social media for anyone under 16. No Instagram, no Snapchat, no TikTok scrolling at 2 a.m. But here's the funny part. How's the ban going so far? According to reports, the teens are already winning the war. How? By using pet photos to log in. The platforms built advanced age verification tech, but dog pictures are fooling that technology. And obviously, the internet has exploded with memes. Take a look at this. Now it's time for Vantage Shots, images that tell the story. Vehicles drive through floodwaters after heavy rainfall in Jeddah. The Thai military released a video of a drone dropping a bomb on a Cambodian target. And Bethlehem rekindles the holiday spirit after 2 years without celebration. Finally, we're taking you back in history. On this day in 1996, South Africa adopted a new constitution. It was signed by Nelson Mandela, who was the country's first black president. The constitution replaced apartheid-era laws and marked the country's transition from apartheid rule to a democracy. We're leaving you on that note. Thank you for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.